Hi guys, so welcome to another session of Leverage TV. Today we will be discussing the topic which are the best universities in the UK. And I am Tarun Singh. I'm a manager at Leverage Edu, so I'll be discussing with you all of the the best possible universities that you can probably go for in the UK. So, but before I kind of wanted to begin, I just wanted to firstly explain in the UK how the system sort of works. So in the US, for those who don't know, there is a group of universities known as the Ivy League. So there are about 8 universities, which are the top universities of the US. And similarly, in UK, we have something known as Russell Group. So the Russell Group of universities are a group of 24 universities, and generally they classify themselves to be the best because they have they are highly intensive on research, and hence they consider themselves to be some of the best universities. So if ever anybody wanted to ever look up which are the best universities, generally looking through the Russell Group universities would be a good place to start off. Um, but today we'll probably be looking at some of the rankings. So we'll probably go through about like the top 20 um, ranked UK universities, and I'll give you guys a bit of information about each one of them. um, but before I go into the rankings, I also wanted to just clarify that the best university uh, does not necessarily mean that it would be solely based on rank, and it's also important to consider other factors as well when choosing your university. So you should consider the location, the campus life, and the sort of city life that you're planning to lead. And also understand that, like I said, like going to the best universities not always guarantees you the best the success in in finding a good job. Ultimately, it does also factor on various other things. So how well you do in your degree also matters. Um, your attitude, your overall personality, your work experience. So these are all factors that generally will contribute to you getting a job and progressing in a job. So one should not overemphasize on just the rank, or going to the best universities all the time. That's not a formula that will always work, right? A good university does help you a lot in terms of it does give you a higher success rate in terms of getting you good interviews, and passing through to the first round maybe of a job interview. That definitely it helps from that perspective. So once that is since that is clarified, now we can move on to understanding which are some of the popular universities according to the rankings in the UK. So firstly, there are a few different rankings in the UK. If you were ever to search online, you will find that especially for the UK, there is Guardian, which is quite popular. There's Times Higher Education. So these all companies have their own rankings based on their own sort of criteria. QS is also another one which is quite popular. I personally like the QS rankings because QS has very clearly given, how they have calculated the rank of each of these universities. So and hence it's not really ambiguous, and it's quite clear in that sense, which I like. So QS has basically ranked these universities mostly based on academic reputation of the university from a global survey, and then partly they have also ranked it based on the number of research publications that the university has published, which generally is a good indicator of the quality of the teaching. Similarly, the faculty to student ratio is another factor that they have taken into consideration. And then further, they have also taken like 10% of their the points that the university gets is also based on the employer's reputation. So what is the reputation of the university according to the employer? And lastly, there's a small proportion of the marks also goes to based on the number or the proportion of international students that the university has, because the more the number of international students, generally that's a good indicator that the university has a global name and is able to attract students from all over the globe. right? So these are some of the factors based on which QS ranks the university. So now I will discuss which are the top 10 UK universities according to QS for 2022, 2021, 2022. So the first university, um, without much of guesses, you can probably always guess the first two universities that are ranked in the UK, because that rarely ever changes. So the first university is obviously Cambridge University, which is, I mean, known for outstanding achievement and producing amazing scholars. It's also the fourth oldest university in the UK, and I think it's also been ranked number one in the world at some point of time. Um, so according to some of the information that I found online, it's not just a super university, but even the campus is amazing. And apparently, there are a lot of tech firms which are also around Cambridge, which makes it a very attractive place to go study. Number two is Oxford. So Oxford, obviously being, it is actually the oldest university, um, and in fact, the date of its founding is also unknown. It has produced 28 British prime ministers. So 28 British prime ministers have actually studied at Oxford, which speaks of its pedigree. And they also have obviously many academics with Nobel prizes, etc. So number two is Oxford. Number three, we have Imperial University, which is in London. It originally was known as Imperial College of Science and Technology, um, and then when and several old institutes of science, engineering, and technology were merged. That was how it was sort of formed. When it comes to science and engineering, it's generally in the top 10 globally. So it's very popular for these courses. Then we have UCL, which is at number four, University College London. I've actually been to the campus. It's in central London, which is amazing location. And apparently there have been 30 Nobel Prize laureates amongst UCL's alumni, which is speaks volumes of the sort of university that it is. I've seen the campus; it's beautiful, even though it's in London. Um, so moving forward, we have University of Edinburgh at number five, which is, I think, as most people would know, Edinburgh is the capital of Scotland. It's also ranked. The university campus is actually ranked as one of the most beautiful in the world, which makes it super attractive um, place to go and study. I personally would want to go and study in Scotland because of just the culture and the beautiful sceneries and you know that probably one would get exposure to. At number six, we have Manchester. So University of Manchester is at number six. It's also I've actually been to Manchester, so I can tell you that it is one of the better cities in UK. It's, I think, the second best city after London, um, and it's a great place to study in that sense. They have four Nobel laureates amongst its staff, which is the highest for any university in the UK. At number seven, we have King's College London, which is the fourth oldest university in UK. It's also seventh in the world in terms of research excellence framework and ranked 35th also in the world, and has also 14 Nobel laureates amongst its alumni. Um, so King's is another great university. So as you can see, there's actually a lot of London universities in the top 10. So people who look forward to go to study in London, they would have a lot of good options. Even now, coming in at number eight, we have London School of Economics, which is also in London. It's super hard to get into, and it's consistently ranked first for social science and management programs since a very long time. At number nine, we have Warwick. So Warwick, University of Warwick is actually it's actually near Coventry. That's the closest city. Um, from what I've heard, the campus is amazing, but because it's not in a big city, so a lot of students do find that going to Coventry and kind of coming back they find it to be a little bit painful in that sense. So it's important to always research your campus location before you actually go into the university, because you don't want to land up studying somewhere where maybe you would not be, which probably is something which you're not, used to, right? So Warwick is consistently ranked in the top 10, um, and there is a fun fact that says that 5 years after graduating, Warwick graduates ranked within the UK top 10 for highest earnings in over 11 subjects. So that gives you a good idea of that, in terms of like the breadth. They're not just good, but they're great at in many different subjects. And coming in at 10th is University of Bristol. So Bristol is in the southwest of UK. It's also um, one of the 10 most targeted universities by UK recruiters, according to their website. It's also home to a lot of startups, and I think there are some pretty big corporates which are also based around Bristol. So, from what I understand, Boeing has an office over there. Their main UK office is based over there. So these are the top 10 universities within the UK, for according to QS Rankings 2022. Um, Generally, I think the top 10 doesn't change or too much, or I would say rather the top 5 usually are quite consistently the same. And then if you look at outside of the top 5, you will see that the universities do tend to kind of jump, one or two or three places. Um, so some university which was ranked 5th last year could be ranked maybe 7th or 8th or 10th this year, and something which was ranked, a university that was ranked 15th could be ranked 10th this year. So they do jump 3 or 4 places. Um, so these are the top 10. Outside of this top 10, I've also listed out another 10 odd universities which you are equally popular to these universities. And they how I why I have chosen these other top 10 these other 10 universities is basically because, from what I have seen, um, these 10 universities seem to appear within the top 20 consistently for a long period of time, and their names do generally pop up in all of the rankings as well. So some of these universities are St. Andrews. So St. Andrews is actually Scotland's oldest university. It's actually where It's actually where Prince William and Kate Middleton met. In many rankings, it's breaking into the top 3. Sometimes also in the UK. So some rankings do actually rank it alongside Oxford and Cambridge. So this is St. Andrews is a great choice to go for. Another university which could be considered could be Durham. Apparently, it is in the top 50 for 8 subjects in the world. The only thing about Durham, which I have heard, is that it is slightly far. So that is something which students should take into consideration. Though I'm not really sure exactly how far it is from London. It also has a distinctive collegiate system. So they have individual colleges which kind of function independently within the campus, which sort of form part of the bigger university. So sometimes these things do these are small things that generally sometimes students do sometimes prefer or to know. After this, we have a few more universities which I'd like to discuss. So Loughborough is another university. It's originally, I think, like 5 or 7 or 10 years back, it was known as the best sports university in the UK. But now I think they have really broken through the rankings of late. The only thing, I've actually seen Loughborough campus, and I found that it was kind of isolated, and the closest city I think is Leicester or Nottingham, which is about a 20-minute, 30-minute drive away. Which for me, I did not really find that to be very attractive. Then we have Bath. So University of Bath, that is one of usually you will even find Bath in the top 10 quite regularly. It's got a TEF Gold rating. It's known for its research excellence, and it's also 1.5 hours, so 1.5 hours from London, which is quite close. And lastly, I think everybody who I've spoken to has been to Bath say that the city is quite cool as well. Besides that, another university which students could consider is University of Glasgow. Again, it's a top city of Scotland. I think it's the second biggest city, and I would always consider. I think it's part of the Russell Group as well, for sure. And generally, I would say that a city like Glasgow, I'm sure, would be known for having a very vibrant culture and arts and music scene, which would make it a great city to live in, right? Which is something which I would love to experience. Up next is University of Nottingham. University of Nottingham is always also consistently ranked in the top 15 or so in the UK. It's where I studied actually. It's the campus. I can't speak enough about how amazing the campus is, as well as the city. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's affordable, and it's a really a student town, but not a tiny town. But has a decent amount of options for students to kind of go around. So Nottingham is a fabulous choice. I would definitely suggest this to all students. Next, we have University of Birmingham. Birmingham, obviously, again, this is a Russell Group university, so you can't really go wrong. And Birmingham is one of the better cities to live. It's I would say it's probably the third largest city in England. Lots of Indians, have settled around Birmingham, so you won't um, feel it won't take you time to sort of fit into the city, and you'll definitely find a lot of good Indian options to eat. Um, so there are only about two or three more universities that I want to just touch on. One is University of Sheffield, um, which is consistently ranked, close to the top 10, and it's highly graduates are highly sought after by employers, which is evident in their graduate salaries um, numbers. So they usually come up. They usually have the highest graduate salaries across UK. So University of Sheffield is another great university to sort of consider. Um, Finally, we have Queen Mary University of London. So this is a top university of London, again Russell Group, um, and according to their website, 92% of graduates find work within 6 months. Um, and they have a lot of campuses within London. I think always studying in London is always a great option if you can afford it. Next, we have the University of York. So York is also Russell Group, and it's known for its great social science law programs. It also has a great campus. They have so many film and acting, related courses. So they really have a lot of options for students. And finally, we have Lancaster. So this brings to the close of, my top 20 universities in the UK. So Lancaster has been ranked third in the UK for graduate level employment. It also follows a collegiate system, and it's been consistently ranked in the top 10 as well. So sometimes you'll find some rankings which would have certain universities in the top 10 or top 15, and then when you look at another ranking, it may not be there. But these are generally the top 20 odd universities which would be in and out of the top 10, or closely hovering around the top 10 or top 15. So I think all of these are great universities to consider. There are other ways to also check out and kind of understand which are the best universities for you in the UK. One way is you can actually check, um, like I was looking at this survey which was conducted by Emolument, and what they did was they compiled uh, a ranking of 84 UK universities by analyzing the salaries. So based on students who had a bachelor degree, they basically did a survey and found out which of them were earning the highest salaries, um, and kind of segregated by the universities. So if you look at that list, you will find that most of the universities which I just mentioned in the top 20, they are all in that list. But the order might surprise you a little bit. For instance, in their survey, they have mentioned that London School of Economics has the highest graduate pay actually, which is £38,000, which is not which was not expected considering it was ranked like 7th or 8th. It's even more than Cambridge and Cambridge and Oxford graduates. City University of London also surprised me, which is the graduate pay is 36,000, and then that's followed by Cambridge, Oxford. No surprises there. And then we have Bath, Edinburgh, Durham, Imperial College, Loughborough, Warwick, Bristol, University College of London, Manchester, Nottingham. So these are most of the universities which I've already spoken about. So these all come into the highest graduate pay universities. So this is something which a lot of students generally ask us. They like to go for universities which have the highest graduate pay. So this is something which you guys can also look up online. If you do a quick Google, you'll be able to find this ranking quite easily. So this was mainly what I wanted to speak about in terms of the best universities in UK. So now we will probably take a couple of questions which have been asked, and then we will close this session. So the first question someone has asked is, what are the other factors to consider when choosing amongst universities? So some of the other factors which somebody should consider when choosing the universities, which I've already mentioned earlier, but I'll repeat myself that you should always choose universities based on what you want to get out of the university experience. So I think most students would probably go abroad to study at a university once in their lifetime. So it's important to have make sure that you're going to the right city, making sure that the university campus is nice, and then selecting your university accordingly. So I wouldn't just base it on ranking. Like if one university is ranked one or two places above the other, I don't think one should base themselves solely on that. So yeah, you should definitely consider what sort of experience you're looking to get out of your your journey when you go abroad to study. Somebody has asked which is the best university for MBA in UK. This is from Shagun. So for MBA in UK, generally there are a few really popular schools which people do tend to go for. So there's London Business School. I think that's consistently ranked as the best MBA program in the UK. There's also I think CAS Business School, which is part of City University. They also have a great MBA program, and it's a sort of after MBA program. And then you have obviously, universities like Warwick and Manchester, which are also very, very popular. But yeah, these are generally some of the popular MBA programs which students tend to go for. For these programs, you might need a GMAT score, so you need to check what sort of the score is generally required. So somebody else has asked a question, and that is, what are the entry requirements for Indian students for all of these universities? So all of the top 10 or the top 20 universities in the UK, when it comes to postgraduate courses, they generally so the entry requirement for postgraduate students generally is that they require the student to have a bachelor's degree with a score of or a percentage of more than 60%. So if you've got 60% or above in your bachelor's, generally you would be able to apply, and there's a good chance of you getting an admission into one of these universities. Alongside that, you generally would need to have an IELTS score. Obviously, an IELTS score of generally 6.5 to 7 is what they would require. 7 for the more competitive ones. Lastly, and then when it comes to undergraduate for these, top 10, top 20 universities in the UK. So if you're planning to go for a bachelor's to the UK and you want to go to one of these universities, you would require between the minimum you will require is 75% in your 12th, going up to about 85 to 90%, depending on the university that you're applying for. So now we have the last and final question, which is somebody has asked that which of these universities, like the ones which I have mentioned, the top in the top 20, which of these are in London? So I'll just have a quick whiz through the list. But in London, generally, you will find that Imperial is in London, which is ranked third. UCL is ranked fourth, which is also in London. King's is ranked seventh, which is also in London. London School of Economics, ranked eighth, is also in London. And then besides that, you also do have good universities. So you have Queen Mary University of London, which is also a good university to kind of go for in London. And besides this, I think even Royal Holloway, if I'm not wrong, that's a decent university, which is also usually it does fall in the top 20. That is also a good university to offer in London. So I think that's all I wanted to share for today. Thank you everyone who joined in. I hope you were able to learn something from this. Please do join us again tomorrow for the next session of Leverage Live. Thank you. Bye-bye.